camera! I'm picking it up. Sorry about that.
Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So last year I made a video talking about the Disney Channel Halloween special, or month-long event they do every year, or every October, called Monstober. Basically all your favorite shows would have like spooky themed Halloween specials that aired throughout the month, I believe, or they aired on Halloween, I can't remember specifics. And they had like themed bumpers to go along with it, and like they had Halloween like color schemes and themes. But what inspired the name, believe it or not, just like how Wiz-tober was inspired by a Wizards of Waverly Place special, Monstober was inspired by a DCOM called Girl vs. Monster that starred Kickin' star Olivia Holt. If you've never heard of this movie, you know like the way people talk about Halloween Town as like a Halloween classic?
This was my Halloween Town.
This movie has stayed like ingrained in the back of my mind for years, so I just decided that I needed to revisit it specifically. Also, you know how I mentioned Monstober bumpers? For context, I watched this movie on 123 Movies. Yes, I'm so classy. Soap today, please come home, I miss you. Yes, I don't have Disney Plus. We exist. But why I mentioned like where I was watching it is because it's almost like they cut it like directly from a like recording or tape of the movie, like when it aired live on TV, because they kept in Olivia Holt introducing the movie before it started and premiered. And
oh my god, the nostalgia I felt.
When there was like an event on Disney Channel like this, whether it was Whodunit or Fa La La Days or Monstober, I was absolutely invested. Like you truly just had to be there. Like don't talk to me, don't come by my house, I am booked and busy. Now before we get started, this isn't like a promo or whatever, but when I think of Girl vs. Monster, I think of where the fuck is Olivia Holt? Like, what happened to her? Like, I genuinely haven't seen her in anything in such a long time, which struck me as odd just because, like, she can genuinely act, and I feel like she was talented. She can sing too, hell. So I was excited to see, coincidentally, as I knew I'd be filming this video this month, that she was recently in a slasher horror movie called Totally Killer. Now, I haven't gotten the chance to see it yet, however, this casting, she's the younger version of the mother in this movie, is insane. Now this is how you cast younger versions of actors. Like it's actually so uncanny. But the reason I wanted to mention this was, you know, because of that rolling thought in my mind, like where did she go? But I've heard good things about this like film despite the fact that I haven't seen it yet. I don't really know much about the plot, but I will probably be watching it at some point for Olivia because I haven't seen her in anything in so long. And the fact that horror movies are my favorite, so like this is my calling. I love a fun, campy slasher film, so we will be tuning in. Also, the girl who plays one of the main characters in Girl vs. Monster was also in L.R. Stein's The Haunting Hour, which I do not want to see any comments about this, okay? My brain just reads his name as L.R. Stein and I don't know why. Like, in my very first Haunting Hour video, I got so many comments that were like, can you believe it, guys? She said L.R. Stein. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know why my brain does that. And I corrected myself in like the recent one, but as you can see, even though I wrote in my script, R.L. Stein, I still said it wrong. I don't know. I've talked about it on my channel before, and there will be another video related to it this month. It might have already come out, depending on like how my videos roll out. But I remember her specifically from an episode which I have covered called Dreamcatcher. That episode stuck with me. That was traumatizing. But anyway, let's get into the movie, shall we? The actual opening of this movie is like we zoom into this like house, which I said house in my script, but it's literally a mansion. And then we cut to this dude like really up close to the camera, and he goes, yeah! It wasn't even that funny, but like I remember little to nothing about this like movie, so it kind of caught me off guard. What happened to hi, hello?
How are you? My name is.
But we're immediately introduced to our main character, Skylar, who is played by the one and only Olivia Holt. And she's like hanging up this Too Ghoul for School poster because they're gonna have a party at this mansion. You'll see in the plot, which I can't say didn't immediately remind me of Monster High, but the poster basically is like up too high or something. So Skylar's like, oh, I can just jump up there and fix it. So she jumps up with the help of her friend Henry, like boosting her up. And she does this even though Sadie and him are like both both doubting her, which Sadie and Henry are her best friends in this movie. At first, when like the movie started, I kind of thought Sadie was her sister because like I feel like they could pass off as sisters. And then they were like walking the same way home, but maybe they just live like close by in the neighborhood. It's never really clear. But Olivia is clearly an only child because we get, you know, we explain her family situation. Or not her family situation, we get a look at her family. It's important to the plot. But anyway, she does this like successfully and she does like a front flip or something after getting it like centered. This is like that, like, she's really good moment of, you know, any DCOM. I'm so used to saying Disney Channel original movie because for years I literally have heard DCOM and I was like, what does that mean? And my dumbass did not know it meant Disney Channel original movie. In my defense, I couldn't remember the context I'd heard that term in, so I was like, what does this mean? And this gets the attention of the Yeah guy, which is known as Ryan, who is pretty impressed, offering her a chance to sing a little with his band, the Backbeats, before she leaves. And we find out some context that they are actually friends and have been for some time, but Sky doesn't seem to think of them being anything more than that because of his girlfriend Myra, who also like sings for the band as like the lead singer. And why I said like girlfriend is because they're that kind of couple where they like break up and get back together a lot, so sometimes you lose track. And Sadie is like telling her like, oh, they broke up again, did you hear? And Skylar's just like, no, because she's obviously stopped keeping track too. Anyways, the girls leave and on their way home they cut through the cemetery to get home on time per Skylar's idea and request. Sadie immediately feels like this is a bad idea though, but Skylar, you know, reassures her that it's just a cemetery. It's not like dead people are buried there or something. Also, this gargoyle starts like following them the moment they like step outside of the mansion. We are 3 minutes into this movie, mind you. Can we please calm down? But our plot is basically that Skylar's parents are monster hunters, which Skylar has no idea about. This makes her a 5th generation monster hunter. And her parents' cover is being mold scientists. Technically, that's their day job because like it's not like monster hunting pays the bills. It's more like community service. Also, 2 things. 1, Skylar is described in the description for this movie on Google as a tween, but she's like shown going to high school. I am so confused. So, moral of the story is do not trust Google, trust IMDb. Because she's 15. Semi-relevant tangent. When I was little and I would watch like DCOMs growing up, I would literally assume these characters were so much older than me. But the theme of like characters in high school, and usually like if there's a high school focused movie, they start off as a freshman. That used to be so old to me. And now that I've like finished high school, or even when I was like towards the end of finishing high school, like a junior, I was just like, wow, that's not even that old. You're so young. I mean, I was 7 in 2011. This movie came out in 2012. I don't even know why I was mentioning 2011. I guess because that's when Monstober technically started. But I was 8 in 2012, so it really doesn't, you know, same point. And 2, why is 16 made out to be such an important age in like the Disney Channel universe? Because guess what age her parents will allow her to go out on Halloween night? 16. Also, I'm gonna assume that she's 15 because once the conflict of this movie's began, she starts to literally say, but I'm almost 16, but I'm almost 16 like several times. But rightfully so, Skylar is so upset because her parents, per usual, don't want her going out on Halloween and she has a party to go to because the beginning of this movie takes place the day before Halloween, and then when her parents tell her no and stuff like that, that this is Halloween. This is Halloween. Because that day at school at lunch, Ryan had come up to Skylar and, you know, her friends at lunch and been like, hey, you know, reminder, having this party, would love to see you guys there. And of course Skylar is excited and his band is performing. Shortly after he leaves, because like Myra comes up and is like,
Hey, we have to hang up posters or something.
She lets Ryan walk away and then she tries to threaten Skylar, telling her to stay away from Ryan, and then we get this iconic comeback.
Don't think I don't see what you're doing here. Stay away from Ryan or I swear I will make your life miserable.
I don't know, Myra. I'm pretty sure for that to happen, I'd have to care what you think.
Genuinely, 7-year-old Tallulah thought this was like the most badass comeback of all time. This scene is probably the one that I remember the most from this movie, which is really weird. This movie is like such a fever dream to me. All I know is that I was literally obsessed with it, and for a couple of years I would like rewatch this on Halloween. Right after this though, Myra starts giving Ryan and one of the other band members a hard time about like the sign they hung up for like the party, cause her name is too small or something, and also it's like, she says it's crooked, I think. But they don't want to go get the janitor to use his ladder, so Ryan suggests that he'll just go get Skylar to come and help because of her poster work at the beginning of this movie. Myra, however, is not having that and immediately suggests that she'll fix it herself, so he won't go get Skylar, despite bringing up, hey, Skylar's been in gymnastics for like 6 years. This isn't the best idea. Also, the fact that her friends were doubting her.
Don't do it!
And like they know she's been in gymnastics for 6 years. I know like they were just worried that she could get injured, but she clearly knows what she's doing. So like, what was that? I think it was foreshadowing to what happens next, honestly. Because as we can imagine, the results were not what Myra was anticipating. But before all this, during lunch, when Ryan had, you know, reminded them about the party and stuff before Myra came up, he also said that the band would be practicing after school and invited Skylar to come and watch. And when this scene started, like when Skylar got to, I think it's like his garage or something, when I tell you, I literally gasped because this is where You Had Me at Hello came from. Why did I think that was like a regular pop song? Like, I didn't realize it was Disney, but I didn't realize more importantly that it came from this movie. Imagine this is a cover and I'm just like really stupid right now. I need to not jinx that, honestly. But it's here where Ryan actually offers Skylar to fill in for Myra, because Myra is there also and Skylar is realizing like, oh, she's wearing a neck brace. Like, is she okay? What happened? Because Myra is their lead singer, and you're probably like, why doesn't he sing? Well, we find out in this scene too that he's quite insecure of his voice, which is why they have Myra as a lead singer. And he's singing at this practice, but he's like kind of in his head and you can really tell. And at this point, Skylar has stopped home before she went to the practice and asked her parents about the party. And of course they're like, you know this, you can't go out on Halloween. But instead of telling him the truth about her parents' strictness and not wanting her to go out on Halloween, she actually agrees to fill in for Myra. Unfortunately for Skylar though, she gets locked in literally by her parents with a babysitter, aka her Uncle Cobb, who I don't know if he's actually her uncle or not, but like he's like her parents' assistant for their monster hunting, and apparently they're training him is what we find out further into the movie. But more importantly, they set an alarm that will go off if she tries to go outside. So she's quite literally locked in. Well, we all know that didn't work, or this movie wouldn't be a movie, would it? Skylar has the brilliant idea to cut the power, because that's the only way she can disable the alarm without having the code. But what Skylar doesn't know is that, they don't use the basement for their mold studies like they claim. So by cutting the power, all the monsters that are, being held in the basement, in the captor thing, they get set free. And they're loose on Halloween, which is not good. This scene is not only Skylar's introduction into what her parents have been hiding from her for years, but also we meet the main villainous monster of the film, Diamana, and we find out specifically that she's immortal and wants to possess Skylar's soul and destroy her parents. This is also the first scene where Skylar is visibly scared. This ends up being a very important part of Skylar's character, since a running theme in the movie is like how she's fearless or not scared of anything ever, according to her friends, and lines that are very not subtle at all. Cobb ends up explaining how monsters are astral projections of human fear. Usually you would only see them in your dreams, but when there's enough fear in the air, like on Halloween, they can actually manifest in physical form. So it's up to the monster hunters to make sure they don't take over, because each monster attaches itself to like a person. So like with Skylar, for example, Diamana is her monster and was actually her grandpa's first, who was also a monster hunter. But once he passed on right before Skylar was born, he moved on to Skylar. And what I meant by take over is that if a person's fear gets out of control, the monster can take over them completely. So since monster hunting was in her mom's blood already, Skylar's parents quickly both became monster hunters in order to protect Skylar. And since they were already scientists, hence the, mold cover-up story, they modified her grandpa's old monster hunting equipment and found a way to capture her monsters. Something that was never really seen as possible before in the past. And they've literally been capturing monsters ever since. So this is why Skylar hadn't felt any fear in her life until now. And now that she's experiencing so much of it at once, she's kind of in denial about any of this being real. Did you not just witness your entire basement exploding and monsters shooting out of it?
None of this is real. You are a witness.
Luckily, her two friends are with her and they're to protect her since they've experienced fear in their lives, obviously. Both her friends experience fear in very different ways. Like, Sadie is more on like the anxious, overthinking side of things, while Henry is cowardly. Cobb immediately decides to let Skylar attend Ryan's party because she's safer there than staying at home at this point, and says he'll be watching them via the helmet cam, although that doesn't really last very long. And then we cut over to Skylar's parents, who are trying to find Diamana. I didn't mention this before, but since the beginning of this movie, they've been having kind of like a debate about whether garlic actually repels vampires or not, and it's actually hilarious. Skylar's mom thinks that it does repel vampires, hence why she tried to give Skylar garlic toast at one point in this movie. Not like the garlic toast where you just put a little bit of garlic salt on it. Like, there was literally a garlic clove on the toast. But her dad thinks it's just all a myth and like baloney. But like when they arrive to where they think she is, according to their like equipment, they literally say like, this feels like a trap, and then they practically fall right into the trap when Diamana decides to imitate Skylar's voice and like lure them in, and they end up like sucking themselves up.
Parents, they're so easily duped.
Like, are you guys not supposed to be the professionals? But it turns out later that they get tied up and placed in her dad's old lab, which is in the mansion, but we don't know it's in the mansion yet. But yeah, a lot of questions, kind of confused on what really happened here. But shortly after this, we find out the other two monsters that were seen with Diamana throughout this movie, one's a witch and one's a scarecrow, are actually her friends' monsters, Sadie and Henry, that they've seen since they were little. We get a chase scene right after this with the scarecrow specifically chasing Henry, which ends up freezing him in fear. So Cobb has to come and take him back to the lab and just carries him away. You know, like in film, and I feel like I've seen this before, but I can't think of an instance of it off the top of my head, where like a character literally gets frozen like a block of ice and they just have to carry the character around like it's literally an object. I hope you know what I'm talking about. That's what he has to do. He has to carry Henry like he's an object and take him back to the lab. Like, this is terrifying. And he's like rock solid too.
Let's get the two of you to the mansion first.
That was so foul.
Also, I know I'm supposed to hate Diamana, but she's kind of so cunt. Like, the parents asked what she plans on doing to them when they wake up tied up, and she tries to have them guess with a game of charades. She reveals to no enthusiasm that she'll be scaring them to death, which will be relatively hard considering they are professionals. Yeah, maybe right now they're professionals, but how did they end up in this situation? They really can't be scared unless it involves their daughter, which is not a good thing. So she knows, what to aim for. So soon after, Myra, who's seemingly out of condition, remember her? Well, Diamana somehow possesses her. And I say somehow because, like, how did she know about Ryan's party or like this conflict? We don't really have a lot of info. I am dumb. There's a scene like at this part I'm talking about, actually, where Cobb is making sure they get to the mansion and is like taking them there, basically walking with them through the cemetery and stuff. The monsters see them like and are watching on the roof of the mansion. Don't know how they wouldn't see that, but I think this is how she gets that context or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like even from that little interaction, I don't know how she got that much information to be like, oh, there's this beef here. Let me use this to my advantage. Unless she has some, like, mind-reading powers. I don't know. Before, Myra's look was kind of like preppy, stuck-up, Mackenzie Hollister-looking girl. But now we get this, like, absolute serve. And because Demona is possessed her, like, she has red eyes, and it's, like, such a serve. What's 4 + 4? Myra's not blonde, but if she was, it would be giving Brooke Hayes in the Halloween episode. So Skylar gets to the party, and with all that's, like, gone down in the past couple hours, she forgets she's supposed to sing with Ryan's band and fill in for Myra. So she has this immense wave of fear, like, fall over her that she would have never seen coming before. And clearly she doesn't know how to cope or deal with. She gets a bit of stage fright, but eventually kind of gets into the groove of things, but it's very short-lived because Myra shows up and takes over. Anyway, she starts the performance as Myra. Obviously it's not Myra, and she shifts into her regular, Demona shifts into her regular voice. And the weirdest thing is that no one really seems to like suspect anything is like going on. Not even a like,
Huh, guys, maybe we should be worried. That sounds nothing like Myra.
maybe we should stop playing and figure out what's going on. There's a moment of like silence though after the song ends. And then she tells them that their band is out of tune and ditches the party. While this is all going on though, Sadie and Skylar have made a huge discovery because, you know, Skylar runs out of there and Sadie follows her after. Like, that goes down with Myra. Basically, this old man shut himself in there for years, and then they find a photo that, you know, is just in the mansion of an old man and Skylar's mom, and then they realized the man was her grandpa. And then they also realized how many monsters are in this mansion. Like, it's filled, which is like, why would you let them go there? Like, he had to have known this. By this, I mean, like, the fact that it's her grandpa's mansion, and then he sends them there anyway. So the girls start catching monsters, which builds up Skylar's confidence a lot, and Cobb is able to fix Henry, who ends up helping him attempt to rebuild the containment unit the monsters were held in. The girls call him, though, needing more traps for monsters, so Henry ultimately offers to bring some to them despite his cowardliness. Which is kind of another theme, you know, Cobb really does motivate him that his friends are still potentially in trouble and he can be a huge help even if he doesn't believe it himself. During all this, Ryan starts to kind of look for Skylar at the party, and I noticed the song that's playing that like everyone's dancing to is clearly China Anne McClain singing. And no, it's not Calling All the Monsters like you guys are probably thinking when you think of China Anne McClain and a Halloween song, but actually it's the song that's in the background of the official bumpers for Monstober, and it's titled I Got My Scream On. Just listen.
Has anybody seen Skylar?
This Monstober.
Monstober. I'm getting scared.
Beware of
Monster. Go! Zombie toenails.
freaks,
Werewolves. Mad scientist.
Clowns?
Vampires.
Girls sure get nuts over vampires.
Vampires are so hot. They're so hot. Will you be the hunter
Who's your monster now?
or the hunted?
Come out wherever you are.
Get your scream on with spooktastic episodes of all your favorite shows.
Turns out this is a real song. Like, that probably sounds stupid, but like, it's conveniently available for you to listen on Spotify right now. And I just thought it was just made for the bumpers the whole time. And I was thinking like, oh, I probably didn't realize this because I had the Ant Farm CD, like China Anne McClain CD as a kid that I'd listen to all the time. And this song was not included. I thought maybe because it wasn't like included in Ant Farm, it was a separate song. But she does sing this in Mute Ant 2, the sequel to the special that gave us Calling All the Monsters in the first place. Why is this turning into giving you guys China and McClane lore? She's not even in this movie. Anyway, shortly after the girls start catching monsters, and Diamana is very much onto them, and she leaves Myra's body conveniently, causing her to fall down the stairs again. Like, I know she's annoying, I hate her, but my god, like, her poor neck. She's had enough neck trauma for a day. Diamana decides though that she needs to act quick to get Skylar off her game, and decides to interfere with the party by inviting all the monsters to the mansion to destroy it. The very same mansion where Sadie notes earlier when Skylar tries to quit on her that a lot of our friends are in there, so this is serious. While this is happening, Henry gets stopped by the Scarecrow in the woods, like on his way to the mansion to bring them more equipment. But in a full 180, actually ends up standing up to the Scarecrow, standing up for himself, and even beating him up? Can we get a round of applause for Henry? Quickly after this, he arrives to the party in absolute shambles. Everyone's running for their lives, and he yells up to his friends who are like upstairs that they need to face their fears to defeat their monsters. But when they fail to do that and run off, Diamana possesses Ryan. And when everyone gets locked in, what I mean by locked in is they all try to escape. Obviously, they leave the mansion and they try to take the shortcut through the cemetery, and she locks the cemetery so they can't leave. So now they're locked in the cemetery, and Skylar decides to sing, but before she starts, Ryan walks up to her and tells her that she's the worst singer on earth, to destroy her confidence. But luckily, Skylar sings anyway. Skylar, who doesn't know Ryan isn't Ryan but is taken over by Diamana, asks Ryan to stand up to Diamana and, you know, the other monsters and do something he's afraid of. Even though, like, she literally just, like, ran away and didn't do that. So he ends up asking Skylar out, and that forces Diamana out of him. Shortly after this, Sadie spells the word goat for the witch who caused her to misspell goat in, like, a spelling bee years ago.
G-O-A-T.
Which causes her to crumble, and we get this like movement of all these people standing up to their monsters while Skylar sings Fearless, which is absolutely a banger. She had started to sing Fearless before like she told Ryan like to stand up, but this is like we get the full music number and full song. Like, I know everyone talks about Calling All the Monsters when it comes to this era of Disney and Halloween music, which I absolutely love, okay? I, listen to Calling All the Monsters religiously every single year. But this song is like on that same level for me, like
lives were changed.
But Diamana comes back after the song's all done, because Skylar doesn't actually stand up to her. Like, she just gets thrown out of Ryan because he stood up to her. If that makes sense? I don't know. So she comes back and she's like, oh, your parents, remember them? This causes Skylar to immediately run back in the mansion. And she runs up to the roof, and Diamana is there with her parents, like dangling them, in the air. This causes Skylar to immediately offer to let Diamana just take her if she, lets her parents go, which is literally her parents' worst fears coming true. Diamana agrees immediately, and Skylar ends up putting down her monster gear because, Diamana is like, if we're gonna do this, you need to literally be serious. Despite her parents, screams telling her not to do that, luckily this is just a trick on Skylar's part, and then she tries to blast her anyways, but Diamana doesn't take this lightly and ends up, like, sending a blast of energy. I don't know what to call it because I don't know exactly what her powers are as an immortal monster, but probably anything under the sun, because she seems to be one of the, if not the most powerful in this movie. And this sends her parents like sliding off the roof. So now her dad's hanging onto this pole. They're hanging on for dear life, hanging off the edge of the roof, and it's not gonna last very long because it's already like starting to kind of break. This causes Diamana to only grow in size and expand herself to have multiple heads, which is very unnerving. Okay, but like I expected the special effects in this to kind of be like China and McClane's snake hair, but surprisingly they were quite good. Like, not amazing, anything crazy, but like, I think they were pretty solid, like, special effects. Anyway, with her parents not having much time, Skylar has to, you know, kind of act quick. So she has Sadie and Henry buy her some time while, you know, she gets some rope from where her parents were previously tied up. And in the end, thanks to the help of Sadie and Henry, the three of them were able to kind of band together and get her sucked up and save Skylar's parents, which she proceeds to take some time to, you know, enjoy. It's not like their lives are on the line. Yeah, they'll be fine, okay? Let me just do my victory dance real quick.
Great, honey. Great. You know, how about a little help with the rope?
Oh yeah, and then the first thing she says after she, like, they're safe and everything is, "Do you trust me enough to raise my curfew?"
That's your takeaway?
It's okay to trust me.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, we love you so much.
So much.
Enough to raise my curfew?
Yeah, we can bump it like a half hour.
Come on, I just saved your lives.
Anyway, the movie ends on a relatively good note, with Skylar singing with Ryan. Seemingly, I'm gonna assume that they're together now, and it seems that Myra and Skylar are now friends, and they even share a duet together. Or I guess Ryan's there too, but the two of them are singing together at one point. And then we cut to Sadie doing her presentation on the brain, which she had been so stressed and scared about that day at lunch, you know, when Myra had previously tried to confront Skylar and, you know, they found out about the party. But she actually aces it and even gets like an applause from the people around her. And then finally we cut to Henry being able to stand up to his kind of like school bully, which is like this kind of jock guy. And the guy kind of like respects Henry a bit after this. He's like, okay, whoa, I didn't expect that, because Henry's not the type to stand up for himself usually. And that was Girl vs. Monster. This was such a trip to revisit. Like, I need to add this to my yearly Halloween watch list. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you remember Monstober, or if you remember this movie and you watched it as a kid as well. And if you remember Monstober in general, I have another video from last year. Of course, this was a sequel. I did not watch Girl vs. Monster last year, and I like immediately regretted not doing that because I dived into Monstober like the years went on and like the evolution of Monstober. So if you're interested in that, I will link that video, and I will see you guys in my very next video.